Okay, let's try that. Maybe you can hear me now. Maybe. Maybe not. Let's hang on 2 seconds. Just give me 2 seconds to make sure my microphone is working. Let's see. Trying. Bear with me. Okay, let's try that. All right, we're going. We're working now. All right. Hi. How are you? Thanks for tuning in to the very first TGI Q&A. It's basically, thanks God, it's question and answer time. What I want to do is I want to answer any of your dog behavior questions. This broadcast is public, which means everyone can kind of tune in and watch it. But in the future, this is going to be a special feature for my the Great Dog Adventure Club, which is a great community of people who get together and just do right by our dogs by having a lot of fun, and you get information from me. You can check it out at thegreatdogadventure.com. Join the club, but I want to get over to today's questions here. And if you are watching, hopefully over on the website, which is thegreatdogadventure.com/live, I will be taking questions there. So you'll see a question box there. Just go in and post your question, and I'd be happy to answer them. So I'm going to start digging into the questions right now, starting with Glenda, who asks, we have a dog, Champ, 7 years old, who's afraid of any noises. The kids next door were setting off fireworks 5 years ago, and that started his fear of many noises. Although he's also afraid of sounds in the house, he crouches down if you drop anything, even a paper plate. He has so many insecurities. How do you build up a dog's confidence? Now, this is one of my favorite things to work on. Working with fearful dogs is my #1 favorite thing to work on, because I really feel bad for these guys, and I think it's a horrible way to go through life with anxiety in any way. I think it really limits the quality of life. So I think it's something important to work on, and something that can be worked on. So you kind of know when it started, with the fireworks, but sometimes we don't even know when or why. And it could be, we think it's pointless, like, oh, it's a paper plate. What are you scared of? Remember that to the dog, it's very real. This is a real fear. This is not something that, we think it's irrational, but to the dog, it's real. So we have to make sure we understand that even though we think it's a harmless paper plate, your dog thinks it's a very real, scary thing. So we have to understand that for the dog. So what you want to do when I'm looking with something like this, what I do is I want you to ask yourself a lot of questions. Okay, Glenda? I want you to list all the things that your dog is sensitive or scared to. So we know it's fireworks, obviously. We know paper plates now, but go through all the lists. And it sounds like it's very noise-centered. Sometimes it could be visual, or it could be a scent or something. But just start writing down all the things your dog is freaked out by. And in your case, I have a feeling it's going to be a whole lot of sounds, because if a paper plate does it, just about anything does it. So what we want to do then is now work on it in a very controlled way. Now, you say this has been going on for maybe as long as 5 years. That's a long time for anxiety to be going on. So this is something that's going to take a little time to address, because 5 years is a lot of repetitions. So anxiety is a slow rehab. We got to go gently, step by step, and it's going to be slow. As long as we're seeing baby steps in the right direction, I'm happy with that. So just keep that in mind, that this has been going on for 5 years. This is not going to change, even though it's irrational. There's nothing that's going to harm. It's been going on for 5 years, so this is the behavior pattern. We have to interrupt it and change it. Do enough repetitions till that becomes the new behavior pattern. So what I want you to do is make that list, and then what I want you to do is, in that list, I want you to find the triggers that are the most replicable, something that you can replicate and control. If thunder is one of the things your dog is afraid of, I can't really control and replicate that. Thunder comes, I don't know how to start that. And even if I get a CD of thunder noises, there's a lot more going on in a thunderstorm with barometric pressure and stuff that your dog senses. So it's impossible to recreate that. So I forget about that. But I wanted to go through this list of things that I know your dog is nervous around, and I want to pick something that is controllable, that I can control the intensity of. So something like a paper plate dropping, if that's like, something that freaks your dog out, that's a good place to start because it's not really intense. So what you want to do is you're gonna, if possible, get him nice and hungry. So skip a meal, and you're gonna eat his favorite food on the planet. So for anxiety, I pull out all the stops. I'm hot dogs, grilled chicken, grilled steak. He's gonna eat really good. So he skipped his breakfast, and now I got his favorite food in the world. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate that sound, that stimulus, at a low level of intensity and at a distance. So here's where having someone around you may help. So somebody, you're going to have your dog, Champ, you know, at one spot of the room, and across the room is your helper, who's going to drop a paper plate very gently, an inch or two off the ground. And I want him to kind of, and the paper plate might be kind of light because he may not even notice that. It's got to be something he can hear, at least even at a low level. But he's far enough away where he's not freaked out, and I'm going to have some food. I'm just going to go, hey, look at me. Yep, chicken. Okay, good boy. And then I'm going to drop it again. Hey, no, look at me. Yes, that's my good boy. Oh, it is my good boy. Chicken. And I kind of like to move him around a little bit. I don't like to get him stuck in one spot, so I may move him 5 feet, ask him for a little sit. There's my good boy. Meanwhile, while my partner there is dropping the plate gently over and over again. And what we're doing is the key to anxiety is you have to get him when he's open to change. And if you think of it at a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being calm, 10 being all out petrified, we got to get him in the 1 to 3, 1 to 4 range. If he hits 5 or up on that scale, we've lost him. And food is a good gauge. If he'll take food he normally loves, we can work there. If he stops taking the food, he's overwhelmed, and whatever it is too intense or we're too close. So we want to find that sweet spot where he's bothered but not freaked out. And this is where all change happens. This is the same for us. You know, when I used to be a personal trainer, if you were my client, I'd work you out just harder than you thought was possible. Not too far, because then I would risk injuring you or making you hate exercise, and me probably never to come back. So you have to find where he's just past the comfort level, and then what happens is you do some repetitions, and then that becomes the comfort level. Then we go just past that, and you keep inching forward as you change the dog's comfort level. So you can use food as a gauge, and you just want to do something. It's got to be something controllable that you can do lots of repetitions on. So something like a sound outside, you know, maybe like say a car backfiring or something, is not something maybe that I can replicate and control regularly. I want to do something that we can do tons of repetitions. So something you can do. It sounds like there's plenty of things in your house that you can use, and do tons of repetitions in the house, so that, you know, I like to take what is the most controllable trigger, work on that, and if we do enough repetitions, by the time we get to an uncontrollable trigger, maybe outside, we have a different dog to start with. So we're at a different starting point. So take the most controllable triggers, we work on them, we take baby steps, lots of repetitions, boom, then we move on to the next thing. All right? So I hope that makes sense. But it's a slow. You just got to look for slow progress. And it's going to be kind of thing where you think you're going to be doing good, and then something's going to happen because an uncontrollable sound will happen, and your dog will freak out again, and it kind of takes you a step back. So you may be doing this thing where you're going 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but you just want to keep doing nothing. Nothing is going to change. It's just getting worse by repetition. So we have to proactively work on this. And I think you mentioned in your comment that you're going to be retiring soon. Congratulations. And that leaves you lots of time to work on this. So just try to work on this. We're just trying to improve it every step of the way, understanding there's some things like fireworks or maybe thunder that we just have to manage and just make your dog as comfortable as possible in those situations. And I'm not even going to try to address those. We're just going to manage those as best we can. All right, I hope that helps. Let me just go check here and see if there's anything new on these on the question page. If you want to ask me a question, go over to greatdogadventure.com/live, and you'll see a spot to leave your questions. Okay, looks good. All right, I'm going to head on to the second question, which is from Heather. Okay, here we go. Heather writes, I have 2 bulldogs, both male. One is 4 years old and the other almost 1. I like the idea of going to dog daycare, so I tried the older one first. He was overly friendly, and in the other dog's face is way too much. Needless to say, he started several problems and no longer goes there. The younger one behaves quite normally with other dogs, but he is mouthy and in their faces too quickly. and too much. While other breeds of dogs will give off signals, bulldogs can't or won't do some of these things. The employees at the dog daycare have been more than helpful to curb his mouthiness and getting in the faces, but I truly believe that because dogs don't get the normal signals from my boys, that they immediately assume a defensive, protective behavior. And in some cases, are immediately aggressive towards them. I don't mind if they're just not going to doggy daycare because I give them plenty of exercise and take them places where I can be with other dogs and I'm more in tune with their behaviors. So do you believe that they are not being read by the other dogs, and what can I do to help them and work on? Okay, thank you for your question, Heather. Bulldogs are a little tricky, and I actually tend to work with bulldogs slightly differently because they are, with bulldogs, they are full forward 100%. They only have one speed, and it's in your face all the time, whether they're scared, aggressive, happy, sad. They respond by going forward, head first, right into it without thinking. They just go charge is pretty much what it is. So they're very much in your face type of dog, you know, typically, you know. So that can pose some problems because they tend to be very forward dogs. And if some dogs are uncomfortable with that, dogs getting right in their space and stuff, excuse me, sorry about that, it can cause some problems there. The other thing is about bulldogs is that you know what, they've we've bred them to you know, their appearance to be a little tough to read with their facial expressions and stuff because of their folds, and particularly because of their tail. They don't, you know, their tail is not quite as prominent. So it could be a little tricky to read them as well. But I think more of the problem is that bulldogs just tend to be very forward dogs. So if dogs are not comfortable with that, they tend to get into a lot of trouble. So they have to be with dogs that are okay with that forward nature. They typically play very full contact, hard, rough. So bulldogs, sometimes I like to put them with a little bit larger dogs. You know, I don't like them in with small dogs, even though they may be height-wise small. They probably size up weight-wise with some of the labs and stuff. So these dogs are at least a little bit higher, so they're not really getting in their face that much. So sometimes, you know, matching them up with bigger dogs can help. You know, with the dog-dog relationships, we're very limited about what we can do because I can't tell the dogs what's going on. I can't instruct them, you know, hey, chill out for a second. He's just, you know, I can't tell your dogs to say, hey, just wait a second. Don't get, this guy doesn't like it. So it's more about management and finding the right matches for them, you know, and it's going to be finding compatible playmates, which are going to be dogs, you know, they're a little more easygoing, that are very socialized, and they don't mind dogs in their face, that, you know, don't have a level of comfort zone with dogs being right there. But it's tricky because it makes them very volatile in a standard group environment like a daycare or dog park. So it may not be, like you said, it may not be the right environment for them. Depending upon the dogs that are there, it could be good. So it's really about experimenting with the various dogs that are there just to see what is a good match, and it may be best for you to do that on your own rather than hoping the doggy daycare does it, because they may not have the ability to separate all the dogs and make these matches. It's probably just one large play group. So I know it doesn't really give you like a really good answer. I think the problem is less that the other dogs can't read them and more that your dogs are very pushy, which is a bulldog thing to do. Don't take that the wrong way. That's just the way bulldogs are. They are full forward all the time, right in your face. So it's just about finding the dogs that are cool with that. All right, I hope that helps. I'm going to answer one more question. Again, if you have a question, let me know. Just go over to thegreatdogadventure.com/live, and you can type in your questions there, and I will get to them. I'm going to answer a question here from Max, who asks me how to stop an older dog from pulling on the leash using positive reinforcement, given that at home he'll do anything for a treat, but outside he could care less no matter how good the treats are. Okay. That's it. Okay, here we go. So the thing about leash walking is we got to work on leash walking, and there's a lot of different ways to do that, and there's a lot of things that go into that. So it's a very hard thing for me to kind of give advice on without actually physically being there and experimenting with some stuff and actually seeing how you're working with your dog. But The key is if you do want to work with your dog outside, for leash walking, first of all, there's a couple different things we have to take into account. One, how old your dog is. You know, if they're very young and spunky, they're going to want to just go, 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 go. So I understand that, but it doesn't excuse it, but I understand it, so it means I just have maybe a little more work to do as we teach them loose leash walking. One of the things you could assess is the tool that you're using. Depending upon the size, I don't know how you can say how big your dog is. Assuming it's a medium to large size dog, I like a front attaching harness, so a harness that attaches on the chest instead of on the back. So if and two of the brands that are typical of this is the Easy Walk harness and also the Freedom harness. But anything that attaches in the front, because as your dog pushes forward, he kind of gets turned the other direction. So a lot of time it's self-correcting. So that can help you a lot as well. There's a bunch of other tools, but again, it depends on making sure you're using them correctly. But the tool is just temporary. You know, it's not an excuse for not to leash walk. So you have to, whatever tool you use, that's great, but you still have to work on loose leash walking. So eventually you can walk them on anything. You're not dependent upon the tool. So there's a couple different things I'm going to suggest you try. So if you're having trouble getting his focus outside, first off, I would skip his meals. You know, just like I talked with anxiety, or whenever you're having trouble with anything, if you just skip their meals, they'll be more food motivated. And I'm going to bring out something with some scent. So again, grilled chicken, grilled steak, hot dogs, something that's meat-based that's very stinky. So if I just wave in front of his nose, I can get him hopefully back to me. And if he's hungry, he's going to be more motivated by it. But still, you know, if a dog is in a distractible environment outside, there may be things more important to him than the food. So you have to go to so what I would say is when you're working with your dog, when you first start walking him, just do your best. You know, first thing I should say is, it's going to sound counterproductive, but before you go out for a walk, exercise him. Get him really tired before you go for the walk. So run him around inside, do whatever you have to do, let him play with another dog, and then go out. Because if you take that edge off, he'll be a little more manageable outside. And in the first 10 minutes, just let him do his thing. And then after the first 10 minutes, the allure of being outside is gone. The initial, you know, like, woo, I'm outside. Then we're going to start to ask him some stuff. So that's when you're going to start to try the treats. And you got to make sure you're in a totally quiet area with no distractions, no people, no dogs. That's where you want to start. You don't want to start in a park, you know, because there's too much stuff going on there. And then you're going to try to focus him with the food, try to get them to look at you. The more eye contact you get, the better. So anytime your dog looks at you, whether you ask for it or not on a walk, reward it. Yes, what a good boy. The more they check in with you, the better. And you want to really cultivate that. You want it to be a team sport. So just kind of keep that in mind. Hang on 1 second. Let me just, okay, so I see something here. Nope, never mind. Okay, so just keep that in mind, and then you're going to try a couple different things. One of the ways you can try to slow dogs down and get them to walk better is just every 20 feet, if you got them focused on you to take actually the food, every 20 feet ask for a sit. You know, definitely at every corner, but maybe every driveway, depending upon where you live and how spacious the blocks are. Or every 20 feet, a sit. Good boy. Give him a treat, or just the reward is you just keep walking. If you want to take food, you just ask him to sit and then keep walking. Sit, keep walking. Sit, keep walking. What's going to happen is after a period of time, your dog's going to start to anticipate the sits, and it's going to be looking up at you. Are we going to sit now? And if they're looking up at you, they can't be pulling, they can't be distracted. So you could try that. Another thing to try is what I call switchbacks. So you let your dog kind of pull in front of you, and as soon as he starts to pull on the leash a little bit, you pull him back the other direction. You turn around and walk the other way, pulling him with you. And I like to do, if he will take food, as he comes toward me, I like to go give him a treat. So you bring him kind of right in, boom, give him the treat, and then you keep walking the new direction. Then he's going to get in front of you again. As soon as the leash gets taut, I'm turning around, going the opposite direction again, pulling him with me. And, you know, maybe if he's taking food, as he comes toward me, I'm going to give him a treat, and then we're going to keep walking. And you're going to keep going back and forth. Your neighbors will think you're insane. But what's going to happen is your dog's going to be like, this guy keeps changing direction. He's insane. And he's going to start to look up at you, expecting you to change direction again. And if he's looking up at you, he can't be pulling a little bit. And you reward that eye contact and try to keep his focus on you. That's another thing to try. So you really have to kind of experiment with a bunch of different things before you figure out what works for both you and your dog. And walking is a team sport. So if it works for you but not your dog, it's no good. If it works for, you know, Vice versa, it's no good either. And also different people walking the same dog may feel comfortable doing different things. So everyone has to just try and figure out what works best for them, whether it's using a different tool or a different method to try to teach leash walking. And then it's just about doing repetitions till we get our dogs to understand that even though they want to run and they can't understand why we're not running, that they can learn to go at our pathetically slow pace in a direct straight line. But it's a process to teach them that, because it goes against everything dog not to just run around. All right, let me go check the page again here. Hang on for a second. All right, hold on. All right, looks like we got a question coming in. Bear with me a second. Sorry. Hold on here. Okay. Okay, Karen, let's see, here we go. Hey, Karen. Let's see. Let's see what we say here. Said I had to cut my walk and run with my pup short due to loose dogs on the road. I live in a rural area. So many pet owners have the attitude that it's okay, even though many of us have asked them either to call them home, leash them. Because I am running, the two larger dogs are the one with more grumpy with dogs running up to her. I don't usually have the power, though. I don't usually try to power through it. We have an incident, unfortunately, of a dog attack, so we're all on alert. Okay. Any advice? Okay. Thank you for the question. Dogs on leash, off leash, I should say. Oh, wait 1 second. Let me just check something here. All right, never mind. That looks good. Okay. Dogs off leash. Pain in the butt problem because it's out of our control. There's nothing we can do. So if you're seeing the same dogs and you know where they live, if we can ask the owners to leash up their dogs, which probably is not going to work. So there's a couple different things that you can do. No matter what, if an off-leash dog comes to you and your dog bites that dog, I do not blame your dog, because the dog is doing nothing wrong. Some dog just ran up to, up to our space and everything. So you can just try to, just keep moving and keep your dogs not even focus and notice it. Unfortunately, if you're running, you may, by the time you're running a block or two, you may have about 5 dogs with you when you started with 1 or 2, because they may just, the chase may trigger those dogs to come over and check you out. But I'm a firm believer that if other dog owners are irresponsible and they refuse to do the right thing, which is leash their dogs, then it is forcing us to protect ourselves and our dogs, And the dogs, even though they may mean well and they're friendly, they're still doing something kind of inappropriate to your dogs. So, I like to just be prepared, because I like to, you got to have your dogs back. And I don't want to force them into a situation that they have or feel or they have to respond to. So one of the things I might recommend, and I've recommended to clients in the past who have this situation, is you carry a small bottle of citronella spray, and you can find that on Amazon. Clip it to your belt or something. And if the dogs charge you, I would stop your dogs, and I'm going to spray them once in the face. Now, the thing about citronella spray is it is kind of uncomfortable, but it's not very hard. It's not harmful, and it's probably going to get those dogs away from you very quickly, and hopefully teach them a lesson that they should not charge you. It's a little, it's not as like pepper spray would be the next step. That's going to really burn their eyes and take a while for that to get out. But the citronella spray is pretty harmless, and it'll very quickly, it'll dissipate out and they'll be fine. So it's not going to be harmful to those guys. But hopefully it just gets the point across, and hopefully you only have to do it once. That's, to me, is like a worst case scenario, just to have it, because you always got to protect your dogs. But you have to experiment. I don't know these dogs. Like I say, some dogs may do fine if you just keep running and ignore them. If you can just keep your guys moving. Other dogs will just chase you then. So then maybe it's stopping, letting a quick sniff happen, and then getting your guys to go. It depends. A lot of these dogs that are off leash, they kind of stay in the same territory. So they wander, but up to a point, and then they kind of will let you go. So really, really pain in the ass, tough thing to address, because so much of it is out of our control. So I just try to forget those dogs, just worry about your dogs. How do they respond the best to getting them to move forward and not focus on those guys as much as possible? And that's kind of what I would go with. All right, let me check the questions one more time. Just refresh the screen. See if anything else. All right. Okay, Linda, yes. Linda also said an air horn will work, or throwing treats. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't even think of that. Yeah, sometimes if you have a dog chasing you, just throw a handful of freeze-dried liver or something and let the dogs, although that may encourage them to come chase you in the future because to get their snack. So that's the only trouble with throwing treats. But yeah, an air horn is another way to make, but the problem with an air horn is there's a good chance it's going to freak your dogs out too. So I would just be careful with that. So the air horn may be a little evasive for your dogs because they're going to be at ground zero with that, and the treats may reward those dogs roaming around to come chase you again. So just be careful with that. But those are things that are definitely worth experimenting with. Okay, so if there's no other questions, we'll wrap this. And again, this is something I want to do every week, every other week, so that if definitely if anybody in my Great Dog Adventure community has questions, I want to answer it. But every once in a while, I'll open this to the public. And if you want more help from me on a regular basis, you can go to thegreatdogadventure.com/join the club. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you soon. Enjoy those doggies.